Podcast Network Asia. Welcome to She Talks Peace, a podcast that highlights the role of women peacebuilders around the world in bringing lasting peace and security to communities. Eavesdrop on their communities and get to know their stories. From the Philippines to Malaysia, from Indonesia to Palestine, from Myanmar to the United States. Their dreams and hopes for a world without violence and a world where every woman and girl can be whoever she wants to be. Hosted by Amina Bernardo, President of the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy. This is She Talks Peace.
I am the youngest among the trainings. So I forced myself to join, and I said to the trainers that I forced myself because maybe I am the next victims if I cannot, I'm not joining the training because I cannot give defense to myself and also the girls in our community.
Hello, everyone. Salam from Manila. Welcome to another episode of She Talks Peace. I am Amina of the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy, joining you from Manila, Philippines. Dear listeners, here in the Philippines, something really good is going to be celebrated. It has been nearly 10 years, nearly a decade, since my government signed a peace treaty with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. On March 27 in 2014, the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro was signed between the government of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. Now, you've heard what it was like negotiating that peace agreement from our previous guest, Professor Miriam Coronel Ferrer, who was the chief negotiator for the Philippine government. But do you ever wonder what it was like for the women who were fighting in the hills, the mountains, the forests of Mindanao? The women who were active combatants with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or the MILF. We rarely hear from these women. So for this episode, you'll be happy to note that we are going to have a chat with Wilma Madato, a combatant, a mujahidat, a warrior for Islam, a warrior for God, who was a member and a training officer of the Bangsamoro Islamic Women Auxiliary Brigade, or BIWAB for short. BIWAB was an all-female supplementary force under the MILF. Now, let me tell you about my encounter with the BIWAB. My first visit to the MILF camp, Camp Darapanan, I met many of these women in their uniforms. They were inside the camp. And I was pretty amazed. They looked like strong women. I was wondering, though, whether they were active combatants or they were auxiliary forces who took care of the needy, who took care of the wounded, who took charge of the hospitals, and perhaps made sure that the warriors were fed, clothed. And I was really rather surprised to find out that they actually were fighting alongside the men. Our guest, Wilma Madato, is not just a combatant. She's a daughter, a sister, a wife, and a mother. For the past 45 years, she's been a combatant with the rank of battalion commander in BIWAB. And she's also the training officer She was a child soldier. Now, I know that there are UN resolutions that there should be no child soldiers, but she was many years ago. She said she volunteered in 1976 in the early years of the attempt of then President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. to quash the Moro rebellion, secessionist movement, as he called it. She decided to join the training for women under then the Moro National Liberation Front. And because she is in Maguindanao, she's in the mainland of Mindanao, when the Moro Islamic Liberation Front separated from the Moro National Liberation Front, she became part of the MILF. Why did Wilma join? She volunteered because she said mothers hide the young girls or let them wear old women's clothes in great fear that when the soldiers come, their daughters will be raped or sent to faraway places, never to be seen again. So Wilma joined and became a combatant. She trained for 45 days in a jungle camp in Datuodin Sinswat town, learned basic military tactics and discipline. However, as Islam requires it, the training for women had to be conducted separately from the men, especially when it was physical fitness training. In 1984, BIWAB became part of the official structure of the MILF with their own headquarters and, battalion formations. They had 32 camps where BIWAP was affiliated. What is she doing today? Since her decommissioning, she has been active in, would you believe, conflict mediation. She was lucky enough to have been chosen to have training on human rights in Switzerland. And she is now part of a group called the Women Insiders Mediation Rapid Action Mobilization Platform, which was established in 2020 with support from the United Nations Development Program. Let's welcome Wilma.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Uh, Good afternoon for the watchers and viewers of Seat Talks Peace. Happy Women's Day. Thank you very much, Miss Amina Rasul, for inviting me with this talk.
I'm so happy you joined us, Wilma, especially when I found out that your husband was actually victimized in an encounter and has spent a month already in the hospital. How is he, Wilma, and how are you?
What Allah given to us is the challenges for us as women. How can we put in mind our faith into Allah, even though if how very lonely with our family. But the important is I am here. Uh, I I try my best, and for the things that every chance is given by Allah, Alhamdulillah, I accepted that because I am only a human being.
But you must be so worried, Wilma, about your husband. And I'm just hoping, Wilma, that the attempt on his life does not have anything to do with the work he's doing, because he is also a mediator, right, Wilma? Like you, he's a mediator.
Exactly. She is a member or officers of the task force who are mediating of the any conflict from Mindanao, from North Cotabato, and everywhere. But I think this is a challenge is for our family, given by Allah.
And you just have to be strong. So how did
Yeah.
you become a part of the Bangsamoro Islamic Women Auxiliary Brigade? So you were a child soldier. How did you become a part of BIWAB, Wilma?
I was only 10 years old when I was in our community, and the armed forces of the Philippines came in our community, and I am very witnessing that they are catching, or they are for those ladies in our
Mm,
community. If they want them, they can get them.
yes.
And after that, the parents of that girl or that lady could not anymore see them. Then after a few hours, or after how many days, they found out that their ladies, or their child ladies were already died.
Oh
So when
dear.
I observed that, I I asked my father that I am going, even I am in a child, or I am in a child age. I asked my father that I am going to join the trainings of the ladies in Camp Rajamuda, so
Mm-hmm.
that I am not the one next victims of these armed forces of the Philippines. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I joined the training on 1976 in Camp Rajamuda to defend myself for the victims of the armed forces of the Philippines.
You were not scared? You were 10 years old and you're a girl? You're not scared of becoming a combatant, a mujahidat?
No, no, ma'am. Because I forced myself. The instructors of the training could not allow me, but
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm asking them opportunity that I can join, because I am the young among the trainers. I am
Wow.
the youngest among the trainings. So I forced myself to join, and I said to the trainers that I forced myself, because maybe I am the next victims if I cannot, I'm not joining the training, because I cannot give defense to myself, and also
Yes.
the girls in our community.
So tell us some stories as mujahidat. What was it like fighting when you were just a young girl?
With that time, I remember in the training camp, I am the youngest among those trains in the camps. So it's a very challenging for us, because uh, my companions in the trainings are already ladies. I am only a child.
Mm-hmm.
But Alhamdulillah, uh, I cannot leave behind from the lecturer, from the lessons I have learned, from the combatant that I have learned, from everything that exercising as military. And when the training were already closing, I am the number one of that
Wow.
closing. I am the valedictorian. I exercise everything.
Did you actually have a gun and go fight with the men, with the MILF men?
Although, ma'am, in the training where we are using the guns,
Mm-hmm.
we are practicing on how to dismantle the guns, how to
Mm-hmm.
reshuffle it, how to
Mm-hmm.
use it, from small guns to the higher guns, or to the big
Mm-hmm.
guns. But the commitment of women combatants is we are not allowed to go to the firing line
Mm-hmm.
unless the chief of staff were commanding with us that we
Mm-hmm.
are already allowed to go to the firing line. That's why the camp of the MILF BIAP is strictly
Mm-hmm.
separated from the camps of the BIWAB.
When
Yes,
when
ma'am.
when you were a child soldier, did you do things like become a spy? You go to town and you look at what the military is doing, and then you report to the commanders. What were the functions that were given
No,
to
ma'am.
you?
We are not allowed to like that, ma'am. We
Oh, you're
are
not
only
allowed.
reserve forces. We
Ah, I
are not
see.
allowed to go to the town to spy what are the armed forces of the Philippines doing there. We are not allowed. We
So
are
the
only trained just in on
yes.
our camps. We are not allowed to go to outside. That's
Uh-huh.
why I'm not I'm not familiar with the outside community.
So the MILF were very disciplined, and
Yes,
they
exactly.
made sure that the women are trained to fight, but only in defense. So tell us, Wilma, about your transformation from MILF warrior to peacebuilder. How did that happen?
As women combatants in the ground, that I'm not familiar with the programs outside our camp. It's very challenging for me because I am trained in the camps that surrounding me is all women military. But we need to sacrifice, and we need to bear in mind that we are human being and we want the peace. We are not actually enjoyable with our works as
Mm-hmm.
combatants,
Mm-hmm.
but it needs to be a combatant. So
Needs to be
after the
done.
signing of the final agreement between the government of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, that is the time that we enjoy our lives from the family, we enjoy our children, we enjoy our husband to go to the outside the camps, to go to the
Mm,
towns, the cities, to enjoy, and especially that we know where are our children already. Are
that's
they
right.
finished their studies?
That's
Are
right.
they working already? And we can take care of them already.
Wilma,
Yes.
the comprehensive agreement for the Bangsamoro was signed 10 years ago. We had a series of small consultations in BARM just a few days ago, including in Maguindanao. And in some of those consultations, we talked to MILF ex-combatants, and they were very unhappy because they said there's already an agreement. It's almost 10 years old. There is BARM, but their lives have not really changed, Wilma. They're still waiting for the promise of rehabilitation. What is it like for you? What has changed for you since the signing of the agreement?
We know that we have 20,900 plus thousands of the BIWABs from
That's right.
eastern Mindanao to the western to the northern and southern part of Mindanao. So we could not say that all of them will be obeyed. Some of
Mm,
them were said that I cannot feel the barm. The important thing for us is the word unity. Whatever the chief of staff or the higher rank of the
mm.
barm given to us, we are always salute. And the important things there is we could not feel the evacuation anymore. And the big thing that we have finally accepted now is the recognition that we, the BIWAB of the Moro Islamic Liberation
Mm,
Front, is part of the struggle. And now
mm.
we are stay our homes and with our family and our husband. So
I'm
that's a
glad
big
that
yes.
yeah, I'm really
Yes.
glad that you focus on trust and
Yes.
hope that the
Yes.
agreement will really change our community for the better. But
Inshallah.
Wilma, doesn't your trust and hope change a little because of what happened to your husband?
Alhamdulillah, because my husband is already not killed. She is still alive. Even though she's killed, my, my trust to our organization could not be changed.
You know, Wilma, you do not sound like a combatant. you sound like you sound like a United Nations peace champion and mediator. So maybe that's because you're part of the WIMRAM. So tell me
Yes,
about Women Insiders Mediation Rapid Action Mobilization Program. What do you do as part of WIMRAM?
for the WIMRAM, we have so many things that we can do. Like for example, that after the trainings, a series of training from General Santos, Isulan, Cotabato City, Davao City, we have series of trainings. WIMRAM is the organization that could unite MNLF women, MILF women, IPs, civilians, and other women's of the Mindanao. Each one of us can feel the sorrows of their kawimram. Like for example, that my husband is in the hospital. I
Right.
feel their sorrows for me. They can visit me in the hospital,
Mm,
giving talks with me
mm.
about the what happened to my husband, because as for me, it is a very challenging for me because that is my start. They visit me in the hospital, giving words that this happens to my husband is a program of Allah. So those things is a very welcome to me. Those things that given to me is a word that I can remember that there is a creator. The Allah is the creator and He is the one giving whatever programs to us as women being.
Wilma, your the work that your organization's doing to settle conflict is very important because you know very well in our
Yes.
communities in Muslim Mindanao, Ridu, clan conflict, armed conflict, it's still very much practiced. So
Yes.
when you are a mediator and there's a Ridu in your community, what do you do to settle? Tell us an example about the work that you do to settle these family conflicts, Wilma.
For me, I have four cases that I have already settled in our community. Because number one is the husband will get married to another wife. As you know, in a Muslim, yes, plenty of wives. So I put in my mind that I am a woman.
Oh,
That is,
wait,
yes,
Wilma.
really.
Did you beat up the husband for taking more than one wife?
No, no, ma'am. But I get the wife.
Okay.
I get the wife and bring it to my home. I give them an advice like this and like that. And then after that, I go to the husband. I give an instruction and give sermon to the husband that we are only women. We are weak than a man. What you are doing that you married to another woman without the consent of your first wife. So I give them a dalil from the Quran, a hadith by Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the husband will go to the wife and ask for apologize to the wife. So I think my mediation between the husband is and the wife can be given a very big chance for them to reunite. So the next day will come, they can go together. And the second wife was, I go to the second wife and say to the second wife, because you are only number two, you meet your life as number two. Do not overlap as you are the number one because you are
That's right.
only number. So that
That's
is my
right.
mediation.
So you are also a marriage counselor. So
Yes.
give us another example, Wilma. Have you ever uh, mediated in redo over land, for instance, or they're fighting over
I
property.
think I can already attain in a mediation, like for example, because they are inviting with me. But our role there is just only to what you call writing what they are doing there. I said to them that I am very expert on mediating a conflict like for this. But as we know in Islam, because there is a man there, we are only on the second part. We are giving them a phone, and then we are the one making a documents after the signing of the yes.
That's very important, the documentation, because sometimes you have all of this conflict, all of this gulo, because there is no documentation, right?
Yes, exactly.
So you document. That's very important. You know what, Wilma? There will be barangay elections this year.
Yes.
Are you thinking of running for the barangay? Maybe
No.
you should. Maybe you should think about running and be able to help officially, because as if you're elected to the barangay, you have access to resources and you can do a lot more. So Wilma, what do you think? Will you run for
I
barangay?
think, ma'am, I could not enjoy. I cannot join the election because when I observed the barangay captain, some officers, they are doing something that is bad because the era they are consuming the era without anything. So I don't like that. So that's
Then you
why
should
I,
run, Wilma.
I
That's why
don't
you
like
should
that
run. So you can change it. And you can use the ERA, the internal revenue allotment, to
for
do
the
good
community.
for
Yeah.
the community. You should think about that, Wilma.
I think I think of that.
And think about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk some more after this conversation.
Inshallah.
Before we say goodbye to our listeners, tell us, what is your hope? What is your message for your fellow combatants, for those who have been affected by war, now that we are in Women's Month? Share us your message, Wilma.
I think for those who are women who are listening for me, and I have given a message to you that this Women's Month, we not want that women is outside the community, outside the house, outside the home, but we are part of the community. We are part of the home. And a man without a woman is not perfect, and women without a man is not are perfect. The importance of Women's Month is that we are recognized, we are very recognized that we are women and we can do everything. And we are a very big charger of the man, meaning we are the battery of the man. Without women, the man could not work because we are the battery of them.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, Wilma, that women can do everything. And apart
Yes.
from doing everything, we are the battery for the men.
Yes,
And
exactly.
without women, the men cannot do anything. They will not be
Exactly.
able to function. I'm so happy to that you were able to join us and share your experiences and your hopes.
Yes.
I really hope, Wilma, that those who are listening to us, especially from our government, they will make sure that women are not forgotten when they look
Exactly.
at providing the resources for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. Because with women like you, who can be in charge of using the resources, we will really have a safer, more secure, happier, and more progressive community. So
Yes.
maraming salamat, Wilma. Shukran. Thank you so much. I hope that you enjoyed our conversation with Wilma
Yes.
Madato, former combatant, a former battalion commander, and now a peace advocate, a mediator, and a marriage counselor. Thank you for listening to Wilma and me. This is Amina Rasul of the Philippine Center for Islam and Democracy saying join us next week for another conversation. And bye for now.
She Talks Peace is brought to you in partnership with Podcast Network Asia and Podmetrics, the easiest way to monetize your podcast. For more information, check out their website at podcastnetwork.asia and podmetrics.co.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia, the hosts of the program, or other programs of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.